Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And wherever you are watching this and listening to this, as part of our World Futures Day, I always have to think about that celebrations, which is on the 1st of March, but you can watch it anytime after as well. So today we have a really special guest, and I really sense and feel it in my body. My cells are vibrating. So you who know me is know how my body responds to other people, that when there's resonance, when there's alignment, but when there's life. And today we have an interesting discussion about a feminine perspective on the future. And our special guest today is Kristin Engvig, and she is an incredible lady. Now let me share a little bit about her. No, I have to read it off because it's just too much for me to remember. She is the CEO and founder of Women International Networking and WIN. So WIN,
Yeah.
easy to remember. And it's actually Women in Leadership for me personally. But WIN conferences, she's a speaker. And what I love about her, she's a pioneer for women. But she also works with men. So please, guys, you're not neglected. She is a global pioneer, and she created WIN 26 years ago. We will soon find out why. She's brought it to life to bring alive a vision of a more feminine, global, and sustainable way at work, in communities, and life. Now, she has won numerous awards, but what's really important is that WIN is sharing life experiences in Europe, in the UAE, Nigeria, and Japan. And when you in the virtual world, we can all access it in some way as well, some other way, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But what I really love about it is she brought, and I listened carefully to this, a revolutionary, yes, revolutionary new way to the world of business by integrating holistic perspectives, aesthetics, joy, and nurturing values. And we all we all resonate with it.
Yeah.
So welcome, Kristin. So tell us, what inspired you to start WIN all those years ago?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for inviting me here, and it's beautiful to be here on Zoom, knowing that we are on two different continents and all these great possibilities we do have right now. So yes, so I grew up in Norway. I'm from Norway. I grew up on the west coast of Norway, so I had oceans and islands and mountains and all of that around me. I also grew up in a time of and in a country with quite a high level of equality, gender harmony or gender equality also. And so I started to travel as a young woman around the world, and I I saw that that was not the case for everyone. And I landed for a while in Milano in Italy, and after my studies, I started to work in a corporate bank, and it was very interesting actually, lots of interesting work, challenges and opportunities. But there was something about the context. I remember, like, I don't know, the environment wasn't where I could really feel the most alive, and I left, and then I started to work a lot in Eastern Europe on some teaching projects with my university. That was a time of the European countries, or the Eastern European countries also. There was a lot of training programs to teach marketing and economy. I mean, I was in my early 20s basically, and it was all new, but I was running around and teaching in these countries. And the more I traveled, the more I saw that women were so bright, and still around the world, that so many women didn't have the same freedom that I had had to travel, to have the freedom of education, healthcare, even who to marry in some countries. So it was something that touched my heart, and that was very important, pivotal moment when you feel in your heart that there's something here. And of course, I knew all of this, and we all know about discrepancies and different gaps in society. And sometimes it just passes by, but there's certain moments when you feel, and you feel it, it touches exactly you. And so from understanding that the work environments around the world could be more inclusive and more joyful also, to the world itself in any continent, any country, actually, not even my own, is completely equal possibilities for women and men, could be done differently, according to me and according to many. As well as there was a third factor that made me start also, because in Milan, I was part of a group of women, from many women from coming from many different places, different countries, and that inspired me a lot. And we had a lot of fun together. And in fact, it felt that being part of that group was a community and like a family. So I thought one day, let's get more women together, let them all feel how it feels like to be in environments that feel like a good family of sisterhood, and why not some nice men as well? And how can we, in such environments, create a better world, or a world in which we all feel we could thrive and flourish? And the same with the workplaces. So that was some of the thinking. And at that time, I don't know how clear I had it all, but I knew that I was touched by my heart and I wanted to bring women together. And so I did. Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel it all over.
I know.
It's incredible, the energy about that. I had similar experiences, especially in also in countries where women were oppressed, like
Yeah.
Africa, because I'm born on the African continent, Middle East, Turkey,
Yes.
also a bit in Japan. Um, it was always very interesting to notice, especially in parts of Africa. I noticed something very interesting, that men treated me differently when I traveled. I traveled alone most of the time. They treated me differently than their own women. And then I would, I would be talking about politicians and CXO level business people. And
Yeah.
I would ask him, but how is it that you treat me like a queen and with so much respect, but your own woman you treat differently? And then they said something, now this just to give some context, this was like in the early 2010s, around there. So it's already in the century.
Yes.
And they said something really interesting to me, that I'm not fighting them.
Yeah.
And I allow them for the energy to flow between us.
Yeah.
They're very strong, especially in Africa, they're very strong masculine energy. And then I come in with the feminine, but we don't fight each other, we actually play together.
Exactly.
And that was fascinating because I had the same experiences in Turkey as well.
Yeah. There are certain countries where there is a good sisterhood, and
Yeah,
it's partly certain areas in society. And in many of these countries, it's a very beautiful sisterhood, which is what we need, and play
yeah,
together and
yeah,
see each other's complementarity or
yeah.
uniqueness. And I also noticed, so that is true in certain societies, and then in certain environments where there is very few women, and if the women get very much into the masculine and into the competitive paradigm, then because then sometimes this toxic feminine comes out, because
Mm,
there is a sense of there isn't enough, and
mm,
there's a few of us, and I don't want to be associated with other women when I finally reach the advisory, the top board of the thing or something. So it is important that each woman work on herself so she's safe in her own skin.
mm,
And it's important that she does that for other women, because most women who are relatively safe in themselves and who know how to play in that feminine space behave better to other women, actually. And I mean, all compassion goes to those that feel that the only way out is to play that
mm.
other game, and maybe they feel there is no other choice. I think so. I don't think it's always conscious. I mean, yeah, there are some really mean people out there, but many are also just trying to survive.
Yeah, exactly. And when you were saying that, what came up as well is we don't have to be the queen bee. You know,
Yeah.
we have a lot of that in our parts of the world, where women rise to the top and then they're the queen bee. And the interesting part is then they go for the women. It's not that they challenge the men, they go for the women. And
I
that's
know.
always been fascinating as well, because I understand completely from the perspective that, you had to fight your way up. so to speak, if that was the route that you chose, but there are other routes as well. There are many women, people like you. So I'm curious about, in all your journeys, I mean, 26 years, it's incredible. What is it that kept you buoyant, that kept you going, that you didn't stop, that you continued? Because I know myself, it's not an easy journey. Yeah.
No, it's a very, very complicated and difficult journey. So I don't know why I even kept it going. I think, there are two things, because when I sort of had this clarity in the very beginning of why I should do this, and created also a framework for change, so that, okay, let's come together for a conference, or which is like an experience, it's a program, really. We look at the world, the workplace, and our very lives. And just at the very first event, I realized this isn't only about women. It is about the qualities of the realm of the feminine. Okay, so about compassion, caring, sharing, about receptivity, about all the creativity, about freedom. And that is also something that needs to be valued and revealed even in men. Now, I still continue to work with women, because I'm saying it's part of our awakening humanity, starting with women. And I knew all these women, and I've had a calling for that, let's say. But why I've done it so long is because we are not there yet. So we are not there yet. And I guess also, just as I started this work, we can call it in the outer world, where I had to really learn how to raise funds, get the team together, do the content, write all these things about this thing, and explore and research. And, so it's a whole field, from research to pragmatism of coordinating people to make it possible, which you need money also, because otherwise, so you need to somehow find that as well. I also became more conscious about my own personal inner growth. Oh, the sun is coming here. and with that, I think this is why I felt I was on a journey, and the conference and the WIN community, okay, it comes and it goes on, but also whether I have success or not, wherever we go, it was also part of my inner growth and inner evolution, let's say. And then for me, it's also a mission, or it's not just like, oh, let's do this. It's a part of a bigger mission that I came here to do together with other people, and not only to do, but to be. And I noticed that in the beginning, it was maybe a vision. It was a vision. And then over the years, I embody those values. I am it. Together with other people. It's not just me on the planet. There are many other women and also men that are standing for the paradigm of more harmony and more integration of feminine, masculine, and so on. So I think I just, and I don't know, it's hard to say. Sometimes I thought I should have given up. I could have done other things in my life. But for some reason, as long as I had things to learn also and create and do, I kept it going. And of course, it varied in the sense I've also gone to other countries. Like I've done many events in India. Then I started to learn about the Indian culture. I've done more than 12 events in Japan. I started to learn more about Japan. I'd also been there before, living there. And then we started with Africa, then the Middle East. So it's not the same. It's doing similar things, but always learning from other people of different expressions, because they grew up in other environments and other continents and countries. So, but for me, as long as I can be creative with it, I can still do it.
I love that you bring up creativity. Creativity is such a feminine power. That I think sometimes we underestimate the power of it. Because
Yeah.
we can easily go, and I know it's a mindset change, it's a paradigm shift, but it's
Yeah.
also a sense shift, it's a body shift as well. And I love that you also
Yeah.
brought up embodiment. You're embodying what you learned, what you discovered in yourself, and through the process, you
Yeah.
embody values. And
Yeah.
and for me, embodiment is truly a feminine quality, whether
Yeah.
we're male or female, we embody whatever we're speaking about. And I've always
Yes.
wondered what will happen with our world if all our amazing philosophers and scientists and whoever from that perspective would embody what they discover. Imagine what the
Yeah.
world would be like, not just speaking about.
Yeah.
So first person
Yeah.
experience. And that's for me the
Yes.
feminine. That's the feminine in essence. It's the living
Yeah.
part. And I love what you're sharing because I was thinking earlier when I was just sitting waiting for this to happen that I don't know, do you have children?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I have
Yeah,
once
yeah.
one.
Now when we are pregnant as women, something
Yeah.
incredible happens because we know there's this growing, living human soul inside of us, but we
Yeah.
have no idea for 9 months what they're going to look like.
Yeah.
And for me, in that and how they will turn out in the world, and they have their own paths and their journeys.
Yeah.
But in that moment, in those 9 months of incubation, if you can call it that, something incredible happens. It's like we have inborn trust in life.
Yeah.
And for me, that's also a feminine aspect. So whether we're male or female, that
Yeah.
inborn trust in life that this is going to be
Yeah. It's
okay, because we have no
yeah.
idea. We can't influence it really, but besides being healthy and so
Yeah.
forth on all levels. But there's that inherent trust in life for those 9 months. If we are
Yeah.
healthy, if we don't have problems, which also happens. But what I'm also curious, what could happen with the world if we just all have that incredible trust in life?
Yeah. Exactly. And you say something also here. Maybe what I'm most proud of in this process of creating WIN conferences, programs, bringing people together around the world is how it has been done. Because when you work with a focus on your how, and then the focus of following, let's say, cycles and rhythms and things, because let's say in the European continent right now we have winter, and we just had autumn and early winter where things falls off, and then early winter it goes into hibernation. But middle of winter, I mean like nature goes under the seed goes under the snow, and middle of winter, like now we're middle of winter, it's as if things started to happen under the snow and or under earth, the soil. And this is when this aspect you talked about is as like, oh, I trust no life. What will then start flourishing or start coming to life a little later? And this is also how to do any work project. If you're aligned, is like you sense something. Like it could be for me, the theme that we need to talk about this year. And I mean, it's always a paradigm proposal, but still there are certain themes, there are certain countries, there are certain people. And or should I even do it or not, right? So I feel, oh yeah, we have to do it this year, but maybe in a more smaller way, because this feels like it's what's needed. And then you trust and follow that, And so this process of cycles and can be used in our work life also, and our projects, and to trust and there is why we have to work in an embodied way, or at least have contact with ourselves, so that you have a better contact with your intuition. So we need to, the early part of all this work is to get out of your mind into your body, then connect to earth, connect to source. So we are multidimensional people that is not just functioning in our brain. So the more connected we are to life itself, then the more creatively we can live that life, and more synchronistic everything becomes. And that is inspiring, and that is non-conflictual, and then you have a harmony.
I love, and it's a non-linear way of living as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, it immediately takes me also back how, if we look at the inequalities in the world, if we let's call them that, um, the imbalance
Yeah.
is because we haven't really, and I know the Egyptians as well. The cycles they followed. If you look at along the
Yes.
Nile, it was very fertile soil.
Exactly, the cycle.
But
Yeah.
they were not busy the whole year long.
No,
There was play,
exactly.
there was times of rest. Now imagine,
Yes.
and I always think of a seed as well. If we just treat our whatever we do, if it's a project, a
Yeah.
business we run, an initiative, whatever it
Yeah.
might be, if we just treat it in that way,
Yeah.
imagine there would be no poverty. There would be
Exactly.
inequality in wealth for
Yeah.
everyone. There's
Yeah.
enough on this beautiful planet for all of us. There is
Yeah.
enough. There's enough.
No, absolutely.
And if we then just, instead of this process, now I challenged lots of leaders in the business world about this before, and
Amazing. I
they,
love
they,
it.
but I take them into a creative process, because if we just challenge the mind, there's
Mm.
immediate resistance. What's she talking about? This will never work.
Yeah.
This will never
Yeah.
work. But if you
Yeah.
just try it out, that you can't expect your people to deliver this whole thing about productivity and performance for 365 days. It's impossible. Even if you give them a month leave, it's not
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
It's not like we lost that connection with nature, like you just beautifully shared with the seasons. And the Egyptians is a living example of how they harnessed that whole cycle very successfully.
Yeah.
And the abundance that came out of it.
It's such an
And there was
amazing
enough for
example.
everyone. It was not that somebody did
Always.
that. So imagine we can think about money then in a non-linear
Yeah.
way as well.
Absolutely.
In such a space, because I always challenge them, you only want to harvest, but where's the time
Yeah.
for seeding? Where's the time for rest? And we
Yes,
also need to
exactly.
cultivate the soil to plant
Yeah.
again. We can't just, the soil needs to rest, and it needs to be
Yeah.
prepared. And then we
Yeah.
plant the seeds, and then it starts to grow. And it needs to be nourished while it's growing.
Yeah.
With the sun and water, it just can't now expect it now to deliver this fruit.
Yeah. 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 And I think this thing of connecting always to these cycles and to our nature, to her, to Mother Earth, and to all the elements.
Yeah.
We can, more of us can do that
Yeah.
and live in this connected way, and understand we need to regenerate, as I mean, the planet, but also ourselves. We need to rest. We need to have times when we are not running around like headless chickens or something, and then other times we can run fast. So it's a push, and it's a okay, occasionally, and then it's about receptivity, and it's about all of those things. And I think we all know this, and many of us forgot or are still forgetting. So now it's about awakening that to what is already in us.
So I've got a question for you. You spoke about this framework of change. I think you call it an innovation and
Yeah,
collaborative
yeah,
framework
yeah,
of
yeah,
change.
yeah,
Now, for me, those type of when we bring something in like that, where people can explore, experiment with
yeah.
things, it's not that we expect people just to do a once big of change. Come myself out of a corporate change management world.
I know, yeah, I
It,
know.
it's we don't have to do it. This is a big bang. We don't have to do it like that. We can. So my sense is that your experiences that you share with all these amazing people, whether they're male or female, in this parts of the world, and we hope soon in other parts of the world too, is it creates those type of containers where this can happen, that people can feel safe. It's
Yes,
okay for me to explore other ways.
yeah,
Because I know
yeah,
it's very hard when you're in a big organization to get everybody on board.
yeah.
Because they might think they have a mindset that's very different. They believe different
I
things.
know, I
Yeah.
know.
But then they
This,
have such beautiful embryonic spaces where they can come and play and explore
yeah,
and be
yeah,
themselves most of all, and have that thing of both working on themselves and then practically apply it into their environment.
exactly.
I think we need more spaces like that. We need more experiences like that. And they don't need to be big, it doesn't need to. We come from a time when learning was long processes, like degrees,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we can create spaces where people can often visit, it's
Yeah.
to come and get nourished and also be
Yeah.
challenged, stimulated.
Yeah.
I'd rather use the word stimulate than challenge, but stimulated and create curiosity of what else is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you touch upon something here like this creating space that are safe and containers. So, of course, I bring people together for 3 days, let's say minimum. For some people, it's 5 days. I mean, ideally, it should be 10 days, but people are so busy also, it's hard to get in there. But it would be nice to have a bit more time with more space. But okay, I'm trying this very high intensity compressed change chamber temple, hopefully. No, and it's I call it a framework, or like it's because also within any safe container, we use the word container, as you said, and because it has certain pillars of structure that come from what we can call the masculine. Because in order for this beautiful flow to flow, it is very safe to have structure. So I create actually a little bit of a strict structure within where things flow. And also I realized that bringing together many different people is something I find extremely interesting, but it's hard for many also. So to step out of our comfort zones and meet with people different countries. And it's not only that we are from different countries or so on, but it's also the level of openness is different right now because we are in a world where things are changing very fast and some people are worth a lot on themselves or others less or they came in just simply differently already. So it's important that we bring, in a way, everybody along. And I trust that those that say yes to attend, to come, whether they were actually sent by their employer or came on their own, they are the right people to be there. And it's very important not to judge. And I mean, there are some people who have worked on themselves for a long time and even they gotta be careful of sort of spiritual arrogance and all this stuff. So it's just important. Let's bring in everyone. Trust that these people who are here are the right people, and that we are here together to work and to look at how would the world ideally look like? What would it be like? How would you feel like if you were in a world according to your dreams? How would it be if that was, you know, based also more on all this feminine. And it's fascinating. And then we do the same for the workplace and our own lives. And it's so fascinating because as we are together for more and more days, you see how there is more unity in the group. People are glowing more. It's like they see hope again, or some had hope already, but they're just expanding it. And there's also very interesting. I'm trying to train uh, others and myself also or I've been there for a while. It's this thing of seeing possibilities, which is part of your work also, or being able to receive possibilities is not only what you project right now, but new things can come to you. But when you ask people, when we are free, let's say, the question is, let's say you're 100% free. If your society is beautiful, you can live in it. You have a dream job, nice home. No, no, what now? And it's very interesting because so many times I meet people who are against things. So, this and this doesn't work in society. I can't stand Trump or whatever it is they have, or I don't like my workplace and so on. But so let's say if you were to only look for what was possible, what then? And in that moment, sometimes you realize you start working, because that's when you realize, oh my God, maybe I even have fear of showing myself, and that
Mm,
happens collectively to so many women. I see it again and again.
mm,
So that's the shift. So forget about what doesn't work. Don't even give it attention.
yeah.
Just what is it you would like, or rather, which state are you also in right now, so you can receive what is coming your way.
Mm,
So once that shift is done, the change happens very quickly. Then even 3 days can be changing your life, So it's about getting into a way of being that is not always against something, and that doesn't always defend yourself for new things coming. And once you're free of all that, you flow, you dance. And
yeah,
it can take time.
you mentioned two things that's really important that I
Yeah.
totally resonate with and also excited about, because you mentioned structure for freedom.
Yeah.
So the way you are, your process, the way you're doing things, you create the structure, but then there's
Yeah.
the freedom to flow within that structure,
Exactly. Yeah.
in that container. I think that's very important, because I think our perception of structure sometimes is this solid, immovable thing.
Yeah.
And but the directly then connected to that's how we are showing up.
Yeah.
And I also completely resonate with what you say. It's it's not important about what you're against. Because the more focus we put on something that's not working for us, the more we go into misery. Then we can't explore
Exactly.
other opportunities because we're stuck in
Yeah.
this. We can't
Yeah.
get out of it. But what you share about women specifically, I think is, and I also discovered in my own work, and
Yeah.
it's also appropriate to some men as well, is how
Yeah.
we show up in the world is it's visible in our body language already by itself. So it's an embodied process to notice, and people don't even realize they have that fear to show up for whatever the
Yeah.
reason might be. The fear of
Yeah.
being seen, heard, understood, discovered, received, and so forth. And I discovered about myself as well. I had a fear of feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my something that when you shared something that impacted you to follow this vision and mission, I also had something like that when I was already 18 months old. Something happened dramatically in my life. And I realized, but this is not how it can, this is not how it must be. There's something
Yeah.
wrong here.
Yeah.
It came from my life as well, but that traumatic experience, because there was violence involved, but not towards me, I was just witnessing it, was, and it was not my own family, we were witnessing it together, was fear of being seen, fear of being discovered. And it
Exactly.
took me a long time to discover that.
So long.
So even the vision that was born then already
Yeah. Yeah.
was hampered by that without me realizing that I was holding myself back.
Yeah.
So I didn't fully show up, even though I had all the opportunity to do that. But in the back, there was this incredible fear of being seen, because we could have been killed too,
Exactly.
if
Of
we
course.
spoke up and in that moment. But it took me a really long time to discover that. And
Yeah.
I think it's but I'm glad for that I went through training. It's a truly embodiment process of sensing into these deep energies without knowing why they are there.
Yeah.
It's we just feel the fear in our bodies, but we don't have to go to the story about like in mine. But just by that itself, we discover that, whoa, this is what it feels like, but now I can release it, I can transmute it.
Yeah.
Especially in oppressive societies, where you're
Yeah.
not allowed to even be seen as a human being, never mind your gender.
Yeah. Yeah. What you're talking about there is at the core of this work in some ways, because and the good thing is, when you start following your vision, whatever project it is, whatever dream you have, and when you are then and you start working on yourself, so you have an outer and an inner journey, let's say. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's when you discover all these things. It happened to me. I thought I was free from Norway, egalitarian values and so on and so forth. But yeah, I also had a lot of stuff, because there was so much inside. And it's so many times, as a young woman, I was very out there talking about everybody, everything. And then bam, 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 you hit back. And then you realize, oh, and it hurt. And then you realize it hurt extra because, aha, maybe there was a time in the past too, I did something like that, because maybe if you believe in past lives, there could have been things like that. And it has never really been safe for women to speak up in a very, very long time, past, at least 6,000 years or something. So it's so all of this has come up, and one of the things also, it's complicated working with women also, because I used to assume that all the women would be sisters and we support each other and collaborate, which is the vision, right? But then many women are also still in their shadow. So they will compete with you, steal from you, take from you, all of these things, and work against you because they're stuck in the masculine, and why can you do this way, so there are all these things. And I mean, we send all of that to the light also, and realizing that the only problem was, in my case, I took all of this so hard because I was still not free of it, right? And so the day you can be free of it and just raise a bow and just send love and light to all these issues and thank the problems you had, because your fear of speaking up, the fear of being disliked, and all of these were actually helpers to make you work a little bit more on yourself, because of all those problems, I had to meditate more to let in more light so that could be healed. So then another problem, okay, and you do the next thing and the next thing. And then, so I'm very grateful for all the challenges, and that have been many. And still I'm somehow grateful, because if it had been just a straight line, I wouldn't have had such a possibility to grow and learn myself. So that's the only thing I can say, that from a positive point of view, but and you need to be, if you're gonna be part of this new paradigm now. It's not just the feminine, I'm gonna receive, and it is also staying very strong in times that are rough, and those times is when you have to have that trust you talked about, and it's not only resilience, it's deeper than that. I will say that it is, if it is your dharma, as the Indians would call it, or your mission, as someone else would call it, or it's like you have to be in a way devoted to it. And because one thing is for sure, one day you may have a lot of success and people around you are like, they want to interview you in the paper and newspaper and then TV and all over the place. And then another day they may not. And you still have to be devoted to having a good life and to the mission of what you wish to do. Or who you wish to be, rather, and to receiving the next message all the time. And that saves you when the trouble comes along. And to get there, for me, it's been a long journey of a lot of healing, a lot of questioning, a lot of ups and downs, and everything from crying to dancing, so it's, I think it's, but then unite others, and then unite women together. And it's so amazing right now is so many women are waking up to the truth of who they are. And I think this is the hopeful thing that's going on the earth right now. All these people that are now can run the companies of our world differently, the organizations of our world differently. And if we are not so hung up in all the things we are losing, or let's say, if we can cry our tears and feel the grief of what goes away, which might be important so it doesn't get stuck in our bodies. But then then as the spring comes.
Yeah, I think it was 2, 3 years ago, I did a podcast about limitation is power.
Yeah.
And I think people listening to it must think this woman is crazy. But I shared coming from being a South African,
Wow.
having grown up in restrictive society because of all the world looked at upon us as the
Oh my God,
stepchildren
yeah.
of the world. So we were limited in that sense, and then you bring in the gender things and all the rest.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, and what you're speaking about connects to that, is when you just focus on your mission, your devotion for that, regardless of what's happening, and what's your source of inspiration and joy, just
Exactly.
stay connected to that. But you
Yeah.
realize that the word in English "no," so when you get a no, it means you're onto something. It's reversed on. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so true. Yeah.
So it means you're onto something. It's not just not ready yet. Something, either
Yeah.
you must work something inside of yourself, or
Yeah.
the other parts have not come together. The people that might need to do this together with you and bring their parts, or the situations, whatever it might be, is not ready yet.
Yeah.
But you're onto something. There's life there.
Yeah.
Like that baby that you can't see yet. There's life there. You must
Yeah.
just, and like the mother, she can't just someday decide to give up and say, I don't want this anymore. Like at 5 months to say, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
child's not coming out. I want to get rid of it. We don't do that. So it's the same type of thing, to trust the cycle, like you say. There's a cycle going on here. Something is happening, and the parts are coming together. But it's hard for us sometimes if we're alone and when we isolated. I think
Yeah.
that's the dilemma, the isolation,
Yeah,
that
this is
we need
true.
to surround ourselves in communities like you've created. You,
Yes.
because we hold each other up together. And it's not
Yeah.
about the us them thing that's us against the males. Not at all. We love the men.
No, no, we love men also.
It's
Yeah, I
not
know.
that. It's just we're keeping ourselves together. And because we understand what we're going through. A male cannot understand what we go through because their bodies, their physiology is different.
Yeah.
And the way where we come from in the world is different. So we can't expect them to understand what we're going through. They can't. They have never gone
They
through it.
can.
They
You know,
can't. Mm.
and I was thinking also, when we look at the feminine perspective of things, it's often also long term. If you look at,
Yeah.
let's take businesses and business climate and business environment, what's been happening in the past years, it's been like the cycles are shorter and shorter, and
Mm.
short-term profit, and even short-term job assignments, and many, many things short-term. Well, the feminine perspective is longer. We think more generations and so on. And I think also we can do that even with our work. Like I've done seemingly same thing for a long time, but it wasn't the same because I worked on myself. I went to different countries also. But if we have, because the beauty in order to keep something alive in your life, whether you're mothering a child and the child keeps changing, right? You are still the mother until it's adult, but even after that, you're a mother in a different way. Um, is 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 that is a more of a long-term thing, but a good thing of doing something constant, and that's why I'm a big believer in having certain practices in your life, like
Mhm.
meditate every day or do something that's constant so that you are yourself having a reference in your life. And I saw it even stronger during those years of COVID when many things fell apart, and this is just accelerating even now outside of us and in the world, but always for everybody who's doing something a little bit risky, like having your own business, your own NGO, or venturing as a coach, or being an artist, or or just simply living in today's society, which is feels like you don't know very much about tomorrow, is to have, just like in a conference program that I talked about, I create certain structures, create structures in your life also. Like every day have a routine of meditating. Every day maybe you
Mhm.
dance, or whatever it is you like. When I do a lot of mantras, I meditate a lot. I walk every day. I try to dance a little bit, or I do things, but I always do them in the sense of
Mhm.
I try to always do them. And then even if this year we have no funding for WIN, or we have funding, or I have 7 people working for me, or 3 of them left, or whatever is happening. Every day there's a certain
Mm.
structural element that keeps me, oh yeah, yeah, okay. And it sounds yeah, what I want to say, it's that discipline that I have found that I had is, maybe it sounds to some people as rigid, but you know what? That has given me so much safety when sometimes things felt like they all fell apart. And So I realized that in the feminine, we need also that some elements of structure that holds us. So because sometimes you need to move your house, you need to close your business, everything can happen. People die, things are, but having that structure, um, and finding that, and if you can do it, it actually changed a lot. And I had, there was a time when I built up WIN. I was running around Japan, India, God knows. I was all over on any plane, saving money to always like economy class to save so I can spend more on women. And I got so tired at a certain point. I was completely burnt out. And then I started to be very, very strict on not working on Sundays
Mm.
and always taking long lunch break, always going for a walk, always. But I'm very passionate about this because it changed my
Mm.
life. Not only because I got more rest, which was the immediate thought I would say, okay, I get more rest this way. No, I got more confident. And I realized so well, in all spiritual texts, it says something, take Friday off, take Sabbath off, take Sunday off, or the moon day off, or whatever day it is,
Mm.
because those days belong to God. But then we are an expression of the divine. Hence, if you give it to yourself, you feel better also. And that was something I'm a big believer in. I talk about this all the time, but it really changed my life. But okay, this is from a perspective of somebody who had worked all the time and building up something big. But I think a lot of us in modern life can fall into that it's easy to work all the time. I mean, there's some people who have a hard time working, but there's a lot of the people that we meet around that are really having lots of demands from the companies they work for, and we just need to take structure back
Mm.
and keep it and be very, very strict on keeping it.
Yeah, and I think it's a level of self-love as well, and
Because exactly,
self-care. And
self-care.
because how can we expect others to care for us if we don't care for ourselves?
I know. And
Yeah.
this is the self-care within the frame. Take a bath, walk on roses, put perfume, also these things, do our hair, all this we
Mm.
need to do it. Read a book, like that's very rare. But all these things. So, oh yeah, the longer I live, the more I see this.
Oh, that's so beautiful what you say. And when you're speaking about the structures that you have in your life, the
Yeah.
practices, and for me, it's the same. And I think that's why in COVID, we had a completely different experience in most of the rest of the world because we did something very crazy, but it's completely beyond the normal. But
Yeah.
that kept us sane. We never went into a state of fear because of that, but we went outside of the norms. So that's
Yeah.
another thing. Don't be afraid to go outside of the norms and do what your heart and your body and your is telling you.
I
If you're
love it.
tired, stop, take a pause, do something different. I love that you say the walking every day, movement. Movement's good for us, where you dance in your own, on your
Yeah.
own, on music in your own space, or whether you can do it doesn't matter, but move. It's when we
Yeah.
we get stuck when we stay in one position and when we do one thing all the time. Change your routines as well,
I
often.
love it.
But
Yeah.
do things, but it's about being. It's not about the doing part, but it's about being and taking care of ourselves. And how can we expect that others must value and respect us if we don't value and respect
I
ourselves?
know. I know.
Mm, mm.
So
Oh,
it's so interesting, no? And and certain things are so obvious, and we are so. And I noticed like some people have like maybe done that all their lives, but they have a hard time accomplishing something, or other people again. So we also have to share these stories, and we learn from each other,
mm,
like how do you find the discipline, or how do you find the freedom to give up
yeah,
certain things, or yeah. So I think this is also a beautiful time right now to meet and exchange, and
mm,
to realize we are actually all one. So back to what you were saying about this thing that I also have had, and that most women have, the fear of actually shining, the fear of being yourself.
mm,
And as more and more of us are breaking through fears of little things or big things, it's feeling for us feels like big thing. We're doing it also for everyone.
yes,
So
yeah, yeah.
and also in this world of diversity and inclusion, because sometimes the women's work has fallen into the category of diversity, equity, and inclusion in certain companies and so on, which is it's now even a threat in the political world. But let's not give that attention.
Mm.
We all see like, oh yeah, but the beauty of diversity is that another is really the
Mm.
mirror of myself, so I have a chance to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the principle of the African continent of that is so Ubuntu, that's so important, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the other day I'm busy writing our monthly newsletter, our musings, and as part of it, I'm just inviting everyone to just experiment with something of when when you meet someone, whether you listen to someone, silently just say, "Dear body, mind, heart, soul,
Yeah,
I see your sacredness. I
yeah,
honor and respect your uniqueness. Thank you."
yeah,
And just
yeah.
notice how your experience changed, not theirs, yours.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This is so nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And now I feel it in my body. But thank you so much, Kristin. I can speak with you for hours.
I love
And we're going to share how people can find about all the amazing things you do. We'll share that after this video and audio that others can join. And the invitation is there to reach out to Kristin.
yeah,
I think
thank
you
you.
just mentioned that as well. We must step out of our comfort zones. We must reach out to other people. And even if
Yeah,
they're too busy, they can't see us. It's not a reflection on us. It's just that we've taken that step to meet new people. That's how we learn about each other and we expand our own experiences and our own joy.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think you said something, it's not a reflection of you. And one of the things that I feel is sort of the bigger learnings now for many of us collectively also, just raise a bow, how to let's say not judge, and how to not take things so personally, it's
Mm.
not easy, but that's where.
Yeah.
And remember, every feeling like that is also a teacher, uh, for us then to meditate it away or journal it out of your system or put it into the light out of your system, whatever way you have. And that is the essence of having a creative life, which is the essence of being in the feminine, that everything around you are your teachers, everything around you are your inspiration, and they are all part of you. So,
Yeah. And it's your gift. There's a gift in it. Even if you're triggered and you really want to just shout it out of the world, but there's
yeah,
a gift in why am I shouting out
that
about
is the gift. Yeah,
So it's
that's
a
the gift.
self-reflection part to go inside and to see what's this about and just be curious about it. Also, not to go into
Exactly.
self-judgment now, otherwise that's also defeats the purpose of it. But stay
Exactly.
curious. Why am I reacting like this? What's going on
Exactly.
here? What are
Yeah,
they reminding me of something in me perhaps or experience where I felt I was not seen, for example?
exactly.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Kristin. I look
I thank you,
forward to connect
Hannelie.
with you again and really amazing. This
Yeah,
was
thanks the
really,
same.
really
So beautiful
wonderful.
talking
Thank
to
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching. And we can see how the sun moved with you. It came on to you.
I know, I got to stop.
And the
And
sun is always me a reminder of life. It's
yeah,
life.
isn't it? Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we all see the same sun regardless of who we are and where we are.
Exactly.
Oh.
And this we see the same sun, and the sun
Uh,
shines on everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Have a lovely day.